Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting in just 1 minute. Let everybody join in, and I will also start this on our YouTube channel. Hope everybody's doing good today. All right. We got our YouTube stream up and running as well, and we'll be starting the presentation in just 1 minute to have everybody joining in here shortly. All right. Good evening, everyone. We're thrilled to have you join today's special session, From Patients to Profits, How to Attract, Convert, and Retain Clients While Optimizing Your Bottom Line. We'll be covering practical, easy-to-implement digital strategies that help you attract more clients, enhance patient retention, and new revenue streams so you can grow your practice without adding complexity. I'm Philip Kujawski, founder and president of WebtoMed. For more than 25 years, our team has specialized in digital marketing solutions tailored specifically for healthcare providers. We've successfully helped numerous practices consistently grow their patient base. Today, I'm joined by our valued partner, Liguri Accounting. After my portion of the presentation, they will share how accounting and tax strategy amplify marketing ROI and drive profitable growth by focusing on highest margin services, removing hidden costs, capturing tax savings, and using KPIs to align pricing and staffing. Let's talk about websites first. Your website will be your first and most critical marketing tool in launching services. Yet many practices struggle to effectively promote new offerings online. Here is how to optimize your site quickly and effectively to start booking consultations right away. Your website should clearly communicate benefits of your solutions to your patients. Some key elements include clear, compelling descriptions of treatment options. And also what I see a lot in practice is you may be doing very high-end things, but don't talk about them at all. Maybe you add a new modality, make sure it goes on your website. If people don't know you do it, they'll not show up for it. You're not going to get consults booked. I typically recommend adding things as soon as you know you will be doing them so you can start pre-booking appointments. I know this may be tough with, let's say, a new laser that you don't have, but this is the right way to do it. Start a few weeks ahead of time if you know that laser or new equipment is coming in, so you can start getting the calls and things on the calendar. Next thing is strong calls to action, guiding visitors towards consultations. Calls to actions could simply be a button that says schedule your appointment. They could be more sophisticated than that, obviously, but making sure you have them placed strategically within your website is important, from saying schedule your consultation on top of the website where your phone number is, to within the website copy for a treatment service, all the way to the bottom where people are kind of done reading. You want to make sure you guide them to that next step. Another thing that is important is optimizing your website for mobile devices. I think that's a given. And new websites don't typically have that issue. But if your website was built maybe even 5-10 years ago, it may not offer the optimal experience. It may warrant a second look to make sure your website loads quickly and looks well on mobile devices. And then last but not least, testimonials showcasing patient success are key. These really drive engagement, especially if a patient or client is looking at different options, those testimonials a lot of times seal the deal. And then if you're providing aesthetic services, before and after photos are really important as well. I think aesthetics and weight loss, those are two main areas where you do want to showcase that success through photos or videos. Optimizing these areas will rapidly increase patient bookings and accelerate your new service revenue. Next, let's discuss search engine optimization. This is a proven way to attract motivated patients to your practice without relying on paid ads. Over 80% of patients start their journey online. Search engine optimization ensures your practice is their first choice. Some key actions to keep in mind and do. So optimize your websites or optimize your Google business profile. This helps with local searches, and it really helps to get that visibility on Google Map. Now, another thing that's important is creating dedicated pages for all of your services. I mentioned that on the website portion. That is also really helpful with search engine optimization. If you don't talk about it, then you will not get any visibility on Google. Google does not know what's not on your website. Publish informative, engaging content about topics related to the treatment options. You do want to be authoritative. You want to have a dedicated page for each topic. You don't want to put 10 treatments on a single page unless you have dedicated subpages for each and every one of those. It really helps with optimization to be authoritative, be exhaustive on that topic, really explain it well and educate the patient. And I would say one of the things you want to keep in mind, what's good for the patient, educating them, it's going to be good for search engine optimization as well. So you're really doing two things that help you from both ends. Getting visibility on Google, but then also educating and converting that visitor into a patient. And then last but not least, ensure fast-loading mobile optimized website. This is one of the key components in optimization. Google does not like websites that do not load quickly. So you're not going to be favored by Google if your website is not mobile friendly. These steps will make your practice visible to motivated patients. I think this is one of the key strategies. Now next, social media. And this isn't just about the likes. It's about building real connections and trust. Let's see how your practice can effectively leverage social media. I think, as far as content is concerned, there are a few different types of content that you should include. Educational posts highlighting benefits. Don't get too technical. Also, don't try to oversell, but really be honest about what you can deliver. Also, I think what people look for is kind of this authentic behind the scenes insight into your practice's services. Videos are a great way to showcase that. Also, short videos from your providers explaining the benefits of treatments are key. These typically are 30, 60, 90 seconds long. You don't want to make them too long because the attention spans, especially within social media, aren't that great. But this, I think, drives really great engagement. And then another component that I think is important are real testimonials and patient success stories. And obviously, you can reuse that within your website as well. Also, you want to make sure you share this on a regular basis. This kind of builds your authority in the community and you become the go-to. Now, beyond social media, I think what's greatly overlooked by a lot of practices still, it's email marketing. This is really your secret weapon to engage patients and rapidly grow your offerings. I know a lot of practices gotten much better over the years as far as collecting the email addresses, but I still see many practices simply not utilizing it or not utilizing it correctly. Some ideas for high converting campaigns include educational sequences introducing your services. So think about new equipment or modality you're getting. You want to build the momentum, introduce the existing patients to it, make sure they know you offer that as a service. And I think it's one of the best ways to keep in touch with your audience as well. Social media isn't bad, but it can get saturated really quickly. With email, I think this is a little bit more direct. And if I get an email from my doctor, I'm sure to open it. So you do get good engagement if the content is of quality. Now, another thing that I think is overlooked quite a bit is automated follow-up emails. This is to encourage patients to book consultations, and these days you can quite nicely automate those sequences. And then next, if appropriate, and for a lot of aesthetic practices, this is exclusive intro promotions, things that are kind of timely and drive immediate patient action. I think that's kind of key to get patients in the door through this strategy. Simply a targeted email strategies, they quickly build interest, they drive appointments and maximize your revenue potential. To sum it up, here's your digital growth checklist. 1, optimize your website specifically for your offerings. Invest in search engine optimization to attract patients consistently. Strategically use social media to build awareness and credibility. Use targeted email marketing campaigns to rapidly generate consultations. And then finally, do not overlook your numbers. Use accounting insights to prioritize high margin services, track customer acquisitions costs versus lifetime value, and direct budgets to what drives profit. Following this checklist ensures you have a successful and profitable practice. As a special thank you for attending today, we're offering a complimentary 30-minute digital marketing strategy session. We'll identify in this session your unique growth potential opportunities, and we'll tailor some strategies specifically for your practice. If you do decide to hire WebtoMed, we do have exclusive attendee-only pricing as well. And you can simply visit webtomed.com/growth to get started with this. Now, with all of this in mind, I'm excited to introduce our partner, Liguori Accounting. They focus on small business accounting and tax for healthcare practices. They streamline bookkeeping with automation and turn financial data into clear, profit-focused decisions. Please welcome Nick, owner of Liguori Accounting. Nick, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Philip. Appreciate you having me on tonight, and looking forward to continuing the conversation and discussion here. And from our side of the table, we're looking at your numbers and your financials. And as Philip mentioned, we're an outsourced accounting firm. We work specifically with med spas and in this industry. So we have a lot of experience with med spas. We understand the financials, the pain points, and identifying where there's opportunities to make improvements, focusing on your margins, and focusing on where your profitability lies and in what services. So want to talk about pinpointing those profitable services. So a few keys here, and a lot of this plays hand in hand with your marketing efforts. You need to know which treatments deliver your highest margins, and you really want to lean into those. It's really important. I think the most successful med spas are not providing or offering every treatment under the sun. They're focusing on the ones that they do well, they're confident, and produce high results, but also deliver high margins. So it's important to identify those. Step one of what services you're offering are, high demand and also providing highest margins. And that's really where you want to focus marketing spend to drive profitability in your med spa. So leaning into those things, doing the research, looking at your data in your EMR is where we always start with our clients when we're helping them analyze which services are profitable. And then, tracking those trends over time, because it does fluctuate throughout the year. And then once you know what those services are, collaborate with the marketing team and focus the marketing dollars towards those services. And again, leaning into that is going to fuel both the growth and sustainability of your practice. I think most med spa owners are, you're in it for profit in some ways. It's obviously something that's important. That's why you start a business, is right, to create the profit and build a practice that's going to be sustainable and grow. So you want to do the things that are gonna lead towards that. Next slide, please. So another thing to pay attention to in your business and your financials are where there's hidden costs or hidden drains on your resources. And there's a few areas to focus here. And when we work with clients, we look at their profit and loss from a high level. And we look at a few key areas to see if you're in line with the industry. For one, we have metrics from our client base and industry-wide resources to make sure your numbers are in line with where they should be for your size, the size of your business, and also based on where you want to be, where you want to grow. So the key numbers we're looking at off the bat are gross profit margin, cost of goods sold as a percentage of revenue, and payroll costs would be the next biggest item. So really those two, gross profit margin plus the payroll costs, are really the biggest things that are going to be indicators of a profitable spa versus one that isn't. A little bit more detailed is we look at marketing spend. And for us, what we see in practices that are trying to grow and continue to grow, that needs to be somewhere in the range of 2 to 8% of revenue. And again, that's always money well spent if you're seeing the results. So, it's important to make sure that that spend is working in your favor. And again, focusing on those services that are going to bring you the results and profitability. And again, we'll see that by looking at gross profit margin. That's the quickest check. Like if you're in line with the industry averages there, that's a great sign, and that scaling and leaning into the services you're offering is going to continue to grow your practice. If you're not, then you're going to see issues continue to spring up as you continue to grow. So yeah, areas where there's inefficiencies oftentimes is cost of product. And we want to see gross profit margin between 60 and 70% at a minimum. And for larger practices, you want to see that even, a little above that 70% mark. If your cost of product is dragging that down below 60%, that's definitely a potential issue and worth looking into those services that are high cost. So that's one area. Payroll cost is another one. How are you paying your providers? Think about what makes sense. Really, with payroll, that should be 25 to 35% of revenue. That's the range we want to see. If you're above that, then you need to think about how you're structuring your pay for providers. And that's obviously a challenge sometimes, is changing structures like that. But there's often opportunities to uncover profitability by adjusting those numbers. Tax savings is always a hot topic for people. They always want to save money on taxes. So it's important to work with a professional on the tax side of things to make sure you're optimizing any opportunities that you have. Some easy ones are making sure you're doing quarterly tax projections. Make sure you know what you should be paying in estimated taxes throughout the year, so you don't have that big surprise come April when you're filing your taxes and owe a whole bunch of money because you had a great year. Make sure you're planning throughout the year, for one, to proactively, pay quarterly taxes, but also put the planning in place to make adjustments throughout the year to optimize your situation, whether it's, retirement planning, or it's depreciation on equipment. If you've purchased equipment, making sure you're optimizing the depreciation deductions that you can claim each year. And there's obviously other strategies with this year with the changes from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. There's a lot of new provisions or changing provisions that are important to stay on top of and make sure you're talking to your tax advisor as far as how you can take advantage of that. And then ultimately, you want to make sure you're able to free up cash flow for reinvestment. So if your practice is profitable, you're again leaning into those profitable services. as you're growing, there's going to be more cash flow to be reinvested in the business. And it's important to do that wisely and plan that out. Um, it's a common temptation to want to buy that new laser or new device that seems like it's going to be a big driver to your practice, which it may well be, but the proper planning needs to be in place to do that. Otherwise, you can put yourself in financial challenges that are unnecessary. As Philip mentioned earlier, a great way to sort of predetermine what's going to be successful from a device purchase is, you know, survey your patient base ahead of time, see what services they're interested, how likely are they to utilize the services that you're going to be able to bring on from a new device, and also pre-book. Like there's no reason you can't, you're going to know when that device is being delivered, fill up the books before the device is there. So you have that revenue coming in to cover that cost, and you'll be able to see ROI from that device, before it's even in the door. Next slide, Philip. All right, so growth with confidence. Again, what we do and bring to our clients and is bringing the numbers into those key decisions. We would recommend that if you're, to be reviewing your financial statements at least on a monthly basis. I think it's important to be able to spot those trends. This industry tends to be seasonal. You have up and downs throughout the year. Summertime is often slow, and then things pick up, in the spring and the fall. So there's opportunities from knowing that, and your accounting numbers, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement are going to give you insights that are going to help you make good decisions for your business. On the marketing side, same thing. The seasonality presents opportunities to capitalize when things are busy, when people are, searching for those services, and even when they're not, like running promotions or running, ads that are going to target folks during those slower time of year can be a great way to keep revenue up during times when others may be seeing dips in revenue. Your financials also help you evaluate opportunities to expand and grow your business. If you don't have a good sense of your cash flow and where your financials are at, it's hard to make a decision about expanding to another location. Maybe an opportunity presents itself and, you think it would be great for the business, but if you don't have a good understanding of where the numbers are at, where your cash flow is at, what your profitability is, how do you know if you're able to safely invest in an expansion project like that? If you have a good market share and your marketing spend is successful and you have opportunities to continue to grow, you want to make sure the financial side is in line to allow you to do that. And then again, build financial readiness for the future and for future exits. So at some point in time, no matter what the scenario, at some point you're going to need to transition out of your practice as an owner. That may be, in 1 year, 2 years, it might be 10 or 20 years down the road. But at some point in time, that a transition will have to occur. And whenever that may be, you want to make sure you're set up for success. A key piece of any transition is the financial aspect, whether it's a sale to private equity or, an internal sale to an employee who's going to be taking over. Having solid financials that you can support and are accurate, is very key. We've worked with a few clients over the last year who have sold their practices, and the due diligence process is no joke. It's intense, and the buyers are going to dig in, and they're going to dig in deep, and they want to see where there's potential holes or pitfalls or, weaknesses in your business. So having a solid financial backbone to your business is key, to any sort of transaction or, transition, when the time comes. So if that's something that's on your radar, and I think it's obviously very common in the industry right now, there's a lot of private equity in the space. So if that's on your radar, that's a goal. It's important to start early and make sure you have solid financials in place, because they're going to look at least 2 to 3 years of financials when evaluating a sale. And the other thing with that is it's going to affect what you get for your practice. If you don't have solid, reliable financial statements, that's going to hurt your valuation and potentially your EBITDA multiple if that's what you're looking at for a sale. So it's very important to have the financials in place and make sure you're maximizing that information for the future. Next slide. All right, so measure what matters. So let's talk about a few items that are really important to be tracking and what we track with our clients. There's sort of two sides to this. One is on the financial side, so profit and loss, which we talked about earlier. We're looking at gross profit, margin, payroll percentage, facilities costs, marketing spend, those type of bigger items. And then on the practice side, we like to look at utilization. So how much capacity is being taken up by appointments, revenue per hour, and profitability per service are some of the key ones we look at. The other one we like to look at is rebooking percentage. Another area where your marketing side can really help drive that is, making sure you're getting that repeat, getting those patients back in the door. So rebooking rate is really important too, to be tracking and making sure that's growing. It's key to align, pricing, staffing, services with your goals. And again, like profitability being the bottom line target, it's really important that you have the right balance and mix there. And it's like tracking those KPIs help you determine that. If your utilization is way down, maybe you're overstaffed, which is going to impact your bottom line. If you're paying too many providers or providers at too high a cost, that's going to have a direct impact to your bottom line. So that's it. These metrics aren't just numbers on a page to, just to have. They really are giving you some insight on your business. So that's where it's important to track those and what those trends are, to see where you can make adjustments. And revenue per hour is important too, to see that your mix of services is leading to profitability, making sure you're spending time with the right services. So there's a lot of data and information that you can get from some KPIs, which most practices are going to have access to through their EMR or through their accounting system pretty readily. It's just a matter of getting that information in front of you and knowing how to interpret it to make decisions is the key. Next slide.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to join us and hope you found these insights valuable. If you're looking to enhance your marketing strategy, WebtoMed is here to help you with your website, search engine optimization, email marketing, social media strategies that are customized specifically to your practice. And if you want to strengthen your financial foundation, the Guru Accounting provides small business accounting and tax, automated bookkeeping, KPIs, margin analysis, proactive tax planning, and so much more, so you can invest in what drives profit. And then for more information or to get in touch with us, our contact details are right here on the screen. Thanks again for attending, and we look forward to helping you grow your practice. We do have a few minutes for questions. If anyone has questions, please feel free to put them either in the chat or in the Q&A section. I do see one question here. What about paid ads? I guess this is for me. So paid ads are great. They do work. They can be expensive if you don't track them correctly. ROI is an important factor to make sure what you're paying in that ad spend is actually generating patients coming through the door. But also there are pitfalls and problems for practices like yours. For example, stem cell therapies, you can't really market them on Google. You could do paid ads on Meta Network, meaning Facebook and Instagram, but there are some restrictions on how you can market specific treatments and conditions. Some of them are simply not allowed, and search engine optimization and email marketing typically comes into play with marketing those. I see another question. I think this one is for you, Nick. How do you typically determine a value of a practice on exit?
Yes. Yeah, great question. And definitely a layered one. The most common approach for evaluation of a practice is going to be a EBITDA multiple. So earnings before interest, tax, depreciation. So what usually happens is the buyer is going to look at your EBITDA for a period of time, usually trailing 12 months. Or they'll look at the average over a period, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, something like that. And that number, that annualized EBITDA number will be a multiple will be applied to that, which can range anywhere from, you know, 3 times to 7 times, depending on the size of your practice. Often we're seeing somewhere in the range. I mean, ideally we see like 6 to 7 x multiples on EBITDA. But it really depends on your practice. It depends how big it is, how established you are. And a number of factors. Every acquisition is a little bit different, and every valuation has its own quirk. So again, it's really important to have strong financials for a clear determination of what your EBITDA is. And that's something, if your goal is a sale at some point in time, that's an important metric to be tracking, is your EBITDA, and know what that is. For your trailing 12 months. That's a great exercise to do. Take that home as a homework assignment, is, go to your QuickBooks or your accounting system, run your profit and loss report over the last 12 months and determine what that EBITDA number is, that profit before taxes and depreciation. And that's a great starting point to get a sense of what the value of your practice is when you're considering a sale.
Great. Thank you, Nick, so much. Well, we're
Sure.
at the bottom of the hour. Thanks, everyone, for attending again. If there are any additional questions, feel free to email us or look at the links on the screen. I will be sending a recording of this as well tomorrow, so everybody will be able to review it. And then have a great night, Nick. Thanks again. Very insightful, great information, and
Yeah, thank you for having me.
looking forward to doing more webinars together.
Likewise. Thanks again, Philip. Appreciate the time and having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.